The attribute function in CSS has received a massive upgrade. We can now use values from HTML attributes for any CSS property. And this function has been around for years, but almost nobody got excited about it, because in practice it was mostly useful for only one thing: getting text from an HTML attribute into the content property of a pseudo element. So with this, you could create consistent tooltips where the text comes directly from HTML. And while that's useful, it ended pretty much there. Browsers only supported the attribute function inside the content property, so we couldn't use it for things like widths, colors, or transformations. But now that finally changes. Instead of treating the attribute as plain text, we can tell CSS what type of value that attribute contains. And with that, it is finally possible to use it inside any CSS property. Here I have a card with 3 data attributes: a color, a width, and a rotation. Inside the CSS, I can set the background using attr, followed by the attribute name, and the expected data type. Now the type function tells the browser to parse this attribute as a real CSS color. To describe a type in CSS, we use these pointy brackets. For the width, I use the attribute function to access the data width attribute and add pixels as the unit. In the HTML attribute, we only use a number, and CSS adds the pixel unit. And for the rotate property, we can do the same thing, but this time with degrees. And just in case when an attribute is missing or contains an invalid value, we can also use default values. Simply add a fallback value after the comma. Now, as you can see, the editor is showing me some red lines, even though the syntax is correct. That is because this implementation of the attribute function is not fully supported by all browsers, and currently only works reliably in Chrome. And that is probably also why Visual Studio Code doesn't recognize the syntax. This example was just for your basic understanding. It does not really make sense to write all your CSS values inside HTML attributes. So instead, let's take a look at a few examples where this feature will actually be useful. Imagine a custom progress component for something like a loading screen. Then the HTML will probably contain the current progress as an attribute, especially if you're using a front-end framework where the progress is calculated with JavaScript. So if you have that progress inside a data progress attribute, CSS can use that number. On a custom progress bar, we could define the width by using the attribute function with that data progress attribute. Here, use percentage as the unit and a fallback value of 0%, for example. Now every progress bar could use the same CSS rule, and only the value in the attribute changes. Or imagine rendering a list of notifications. Then each item could contain a different delay. Just define a data delay attribute where each item gets a different delay. Then in CSS, simply call the attribute function to fetch that value from the data delay attribute and convert it to milliseconds. And just like that, you can create a staggered animation effect. Now another super interesting example would be view transitions. If you have seen my recent video on view transitions, you might remember that animations like these, where a card thumbnail transitions into the header image, specifically need a unique view transition name. So if you have 3 cards that should become the header image on click, then they cannot have the same view transition name. You would have to set this up for each image individually. And of course, that would be very repetitive CSS if you had to do this for every image. So instead, let's just use the attribute function to set those names in HTML, because every card might already have a unique ID. And CSS can use that ID as its view transition name. When we click on the image and transition to another page, then the destination image on that other page also needs to receive that same name, so the browser knows that those 2 images belong together. But in that case, you can just use the same ID on that element, as it is on a separate HTML page. But in the CSS file, we also have to use a specific type for this: the custom-ident. It means custom identifier and tells CSS to parse the attribute as an identifier, rather than ordinary text. You have to use this type when the property expects a developer-defined identifier, such as an animation name, a grid area, a container name, or a view transition name, like we're doing right here. If I test this in the browser, you will see how each card has its own view transition, where the image becomes the header image. Now, if you like the way I explain things, you might learn a lot from my courses linked in the description. And if you've never heard about view transitions before, then this example was probably a bit hard to understand. Luckily, I already have an entire video about view transitions between HTML pages. You can watch it right here. My name is Fabian, and this was Coding to Go.